They have done everything to try and strip him of his wealth and of his fame. They've tried to break up our family. They've done everything possible to try and get him and kill him. And they literally tried to kill him this week. And despite that, he's undeterred.
Nobody who's being an honest broker can possibly believe that the Democratic rhetoric is the problem here. So if the issue is that we're saying all the time that he's like Hitler and he's a threat to democracy, and by the way, J.D. Vance has also said that he's like Hitler, and I guess he's redeemed now.
Got him. We fucking got him.
Donald Trump sent a fundraising email just last week that said Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. And only one of these candidates has inspired people who sent pipe bombs to leading Democrats across the country, who has inspired mass shooters. Talk about firing up the base. Donald Trump has been doing that since 2016. Remember when he said the Second Amendment people could take care of it? When he was talking about Hillary Clinton abolishing the Second Amendment and she'll get to appoint judges.
Okay, two things about this. First,
and only one of these candidates has inspired people who sent pipe bombs to leading Democrats across the country.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Is that the way you say it? That's a bingo.
You just say bingo.
And second, just listen to the reaction, right, as Jessica Tarlov rhymes off the CVS-length receipt of all the times that the Republican frontrunner has incited violence, not to forget the countless times that he's condoned it at his rallies.
He retruthed, or whatever it was, a video of Joe Biden hogtied. Just back in my...
That was hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Your examples
hilarious.
are so tiny.
No. They laugh, and that's the difference, right? As was shown in the stark contrast between how Democrats responded to the abhorrent assassination attempt of Donald Trump versus Republicans literally joking about the attempted murder of the former speaker's husband.
The Republican convention will start tomorrow. I have no doubt they'll criticize my record and offer their own vision for this country. I'll be traveling this week making the case for our record and the vision, my vision of the country, our vision. I'll continue to speak out strongly for our democracy, stand up for our Constitution and the rule of law, to call for action at the ballot box, no violence on our streets. That's how democracy should work.
I'm really disgusted because here's why. Just earlier today on a fundraising phone call, and I'll quote, I want to make sure I get it right. Joe Biden told his donors that it's time to put Trump in a bullseye. Well, guess what? That is exactly what someone did today with their rifle as they attempted to assassinate President Trump. They did exactly what Joe Biden said to his donors on the phone.
Not the same, right? Now, it wouldn't be a MAGA national convention without your run-of-the-mill fear-mongering, hate-spewing, and a speech from someone plucked straight from the Kevin Sorbo pile of I'm desperate for money.
I realize Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
But as one would come to expect in the wake of this weekend's shooting, Republicans have continued to perpetuate this idea that it's democratic rhetoric that begets violence.
To America.
Do you think that this is a bit of a wake-up call, that rhetoric has gotten so heated? There are accusations and, comments about the fact that electing somebody would be the end of democracy, as we know it, that kind of thing. We had former Attorney General Bill Barr say last night, Democrats have got to stop their grossly irresponsible talk about President Trump being an existential threat to democracy. He is not. Where do we go in our political conversation? I mean, this country is built on being able to disagree and do it in a very heated way. But what about this?
Well, it is. But there is no place in politics in any way, shape or form for this kind of violence, for these types of actions. It's a horrific act. And we certainly don't know all of the details, and we're going to have time for investigations on it.
This, of course, coming from the party who condoned the Hang Mike Pence crowd and labeled them as hostages.
On the issue of election integrity, though, as you know, Trump took his case to court more than 60 times that there was fraud. He didn't win. But I want to get back to this key question. Do you still think it was a tragic day? Do you think that the people who stormed the Capitol should be held responsible to the full extent of the law?
I have concerns about the treatment of January 6 hostages.
As the message was relayed on Fox News, liberal voice of sanity Jessica Tarlov, turning from maternity leave just in time to call out the fact that of the two candidates for president, only one has retweeted a video of the other hogtied.
But nobody who's being an honest broker can possibly believe that the Democratic rhetoric is the problem here. So if the issue is that we're saying all the time that he's like Hitler and he's a threat to democracy, and by the way, J.D. Vance has also said that he's like Hitler, and I guess he's redeemed now. But Donald Trump sent a fundraising email just last week that said Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. And only one of these candidates has inspired people who sent pipe bombs to leading Democrats across the country, who has inspired mass shooters. Talk about firing up the base. Donald Trump has been doing that since 2016. Remember when he said the Second Amendment people could take care of it? When he was talking about Hillary Clinton abolishing the Second Amendment and she'll get to appoint judges. He talked about, remember that congressman from Montana who body slammed a reporter and he said, he's my type. He retruthed or whatever it was, a video of Joe Biden hogtied. Just back in
that was hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Your examples
hilarious.
are so tiny.
No, they're
We're talking about an attempted assassination that left a man dead. A shooter groomed and incentivized by a drumbeat of demonization.
You have no idea what that
call people.
Republican
You can call people.
Now, this, of course, was in response to her co-host, Greg Gutler, seizing on the shooting to blame Democrats, citing this common refrain from them that Trump is a threat to democracy, which, he is, seeing as he attempted to overturn the 2020 election. But before starting what I can only assume was some unsubstantiated rant about the shooter being brainwashed, the only reports that we have to go off show that he was a registered Republican.
Channel 4 News can reveal that Thomas Crooks's father, the owner of the rifle that was used to shoot at Donald Trump, was held on a database and profiled by the former president's election campaign and identified by them as a strong Republican supporter, gun owner, and hunter. The information was compiled as part of a secret Republican project to gather data on millions of gun owners across America and use it to target pro-gun messages in the run-up to the 2016 election.
And here's why they did it. The city of Pittsburgh is a key battleground in the critical swing state of Pennsylvania, so voters here are always heavily profiled and targeted by political parties, like the Trump campaign in 2016, which held voters' details on a database, including, as we've discovered, the shooter's family, Matthew Crooks and his wife Mary, who lived here at 2506 Milford Drive in Bethel Park. We know they profiled them using secret computer models to identify likely gun owners and enthusiasts, and Mr. Crooks scored very highly, 0.99 out of 1 for being a gun owner and 0.95 out of 1 for being a hunter. In fact, out of more than 19,000 people in Bethel Park who were profiled, Mr. Crooks was in the top 20.
And this isn't the first time in recent days that Jessica Tarlov has called this to attention. And in fact, it's becoming a daily ritual. That and reminding her co-hosts of who J.D. Vance was before he grew a beard to help soften the soul of the boot that he's licking.
Border, it's focusing on crime.
The themes of his campaign.
Yeah.
Which that totally makes sense to me. But I do want to push back on what David was saying about essentially saying that this is a problem that came from the Democratic side. And I would hope that we could take a little time off before we get to this. But the rhetoric out of the Republican side, out of Donald Trump himself or Don Jr. about the attack on Paul Pelosi, mocking him, making up a rumor that this was some gay sex event, right? And wasn't a terrible attack by someone who was politically motivated and could have taken his life. No. That is the genesis of this. This goes back to 2016.
Well, you can chicken and egg.
In terms of the J.D. Vance pick, this is what Democrats wanted, for him to pick J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is, a security blanket with a beard for Donald Trump. And I know the beard was a big point of contention, and I'm glad that he is willing to give the facial hair a chance there. He has exactly the same base as Donald Trump. It doesn't expand the map. He was going to win Ohio anyway. His policies are the same: protectionist, America first, anti-NATO, throw Ukraine to the wolves.
And I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. Terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible. Those are things that the left is going to come after you, and they're probably going to be put in ads should you be chosen as the VP pick.
But who needs facts on Fox News, right?
He is dedicated to ensure that no American is ever forgotten again.
So my fear
is, I think Donald Trump is not the right candidate for this group of voters. I think that this election is really having a negative effect, especially on the white working class, right? Because I think a lot of these grievances are legitimate, but what it's doing is it's giving people an excuse to point the finger at someone else. It's point the finger at Mexican immigrants or Chinese trade or the Democratic elites or whatever else. And sometimes these villains are legitimate. I think it's totally fair to say that the policy elites of the Democratic Party haven't been totally concerned about the white working class. But at the same time, fundamentally what's going on and what Donald Trump has done is change the focus of the white working class from a sort of engaged and constructive politics to a politics of pointing the finger.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.